You are listening to the 5 Squared Podcast, the podcast where we bring you tips for your business and your life. Our goal is to leave you smarter with ideas, wisdom, tools, and entertained. The 5 Squared Podcast is produced weekly for your enrichment. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at 5 Squared and Facebook. All the links are in the show notes. Now let's get started with your host, business consultant, executive coach, and founder of 5 Squared, Tim Fives.
Welcome back to this episode of the 5 Squared Podcast with your host, Tim Fives. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Last episode, we had Andrew Gagnon, and we were talking about marketing. And today we have a special request from one of the Facebook groups I'm in. I wanted to talk about how to manage the mindset. So I figured, why not? Nothing better than sharing this with everyone. There's a couple of components that we need to accept to ensure that we can maximize our mindset. And the first one of these, and this is often the most difficult, is that we get to decide on the life we get to live. We get to decide whether we're happy or not. We get to decide how we react to others' inputs. We get to decide what kind of life we want, jobs we want, but most importantly, how we get to decide how we react to the events that unfold throughout the day. The second principle is that we are a combination of what we've been programmed with. And the programming is sometimes active, the things we listen to, the people we hang out with, and those active type of things. And then there's other programming that's happened to us whether we knew it or not, like how we were raised by our parents and, the programming that society puts onto us. And it's really important that we understand that because we can ultimately decide how we want to be programmed. And I know that when we say we've been programmed, that is a negative connotation. But the inputs into our brains and what we consume really do affect our mindset. And then the third thing that I'd like to bring up when I'm working with people is what excites them? What gets them out of bed in the morning? If you're in a mundane job and you're not excited on that and you've got nothing else in your life to excite you, then again, it really affects the mindset and the doldrums. And I have a saying, are you dying in the gray cubicles of sadness, or are you going out and taking what's yours? So, and a lot of people are motivated and excited by different things. A lot of people, they really like they're task masters, and they have their to-do lists, and they feel a sense of accomplishment. They feel really good about themselves when they've crossed everything off their task list. And then you have people that are mission-driven, and they're on a crusade, and that's all they think about. They obsess about that, and that's fantastic. And then you have people that are working out of desperation, and this takes on many different forms. And one of that I'd like to bring out is how many of us have been motivated or passionate because somebody told us we couldn't do something. Again, in any of these modes, you have to have an emotional attachment, right? That's the excitement. It is the emotional attachment to what you're doing. And that's what keeps us going when things aren't going well. So, attached to this podcast, I'm putting, and I've never done this before, but I'm putting together, I'm attaching a download on the mindset of scarcity versus abundance. At the heart of our decision-making and our mindset is the lens that we look at the world through. And there's really only two lenses that we get to choose. The first could be out of scarcity. And you think about that in terms of, well, the world's against me. I'm too old. I'm not good enough. And then that creates an emotional state around that. It starts with some moods, maybe you're down, and then into an emotional state, which could be just apathy or procrastination or self-doubt. A lot of people cover it in arrogance. And ultimately, it is a victim mentality. Now, on the other side of the equation, you have the abundance thinker. And these are people that know that they're good enough. They know that they bring a tremendous experience. They know they add massive value to a company. They know that people will help them. And their emotional states are at the other side of the spectrum, where they're optimistic and they're driven, they're motivated. There's a level of confidence. They live in gratitude, which is huge. And, if you boil all of this down, the scarcity mindset is a fear-based mindset. And the abundance mindset is one out of peace. And I'm not talking about it necessarily from a religious sense, although there could be an argument made for that. But peace with themselves, peace with where they're at, a level of fulfillment, a level of knowing that they're on their way to the destination that they're prescribing, and they're enjoying the journey. They're at peace with that journey. So, we talked a little bit about conditioning, and you think about the negative thoughts you have in a day. And I'll give a prescription, if you will, for how to reprogram ourselves. That goes all the way back to pretty much anybody that's been successful. If people have read the book Think and Grow Rich, those people had this same mentality. And it's setting up a morning routine. You see, we get to choose what we want to do. And that choice is, do you want to take control of how your mind processes information? And the first thing that we look at is, how do you create a level of gratitude for yourself? And it starts in the morning. And getting up in the morning and basking in 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for is huge. Because it gets the mind to shift. Instead of picking up the iPhone or the Android and looking at the news and all the terrible things, because that's a choice you get to make every morning. And you're either programming yourself with the negativity of email and the news and Facebook and all of these things, or you can take a couple minutes out of your day and start the day differently with a level of gratitude. So that's one thing to do. Now, one of the things that I love to do, and the people that do this for me, they have phenomenal success. And this is after they do that, right? So you take a journal, you write down the 3 to 5, 6 things that you're grateful for. You kind of bask in that emotion of gratitude. And then throughout the day, they write down their negative thoughts. And what's beautiful about this, and if you do it repeatedly, is that the mind then associates that journal or that notebook or wherever you're writing these things down. And side note here, you have to write them down with pen and paper. Works the best. That the mind associates that with a safe place. And it starts to unclutter your mind from spinning on the negativity of the day. And then on day 2, you do the same thing. You flip the page, you start with gratitude, and you start writing down your negative thoughts. The other thing that really helps us when we look at this, when we're in that mindset of scarcity, is it really, really comes down to, we don't think we're good enough. And I'm going to ask everybody out there listening is, do you love yourself? And I know this may sound a little wonky, but bear with me. In addition to the morning gratitude, one of the things that I strongly recommend is that people look in the mirror, look themselves in the eye. And I got this from a fantastic coach. And you look yourself in the eye and you tell yourself that you love yourself for 5 minutes. If you're in a hurry, 3 minutes. But you do that. And again, it's conditioning the mind to see yourself differently. With those 2 things, living in gratitude, telling yourself that you love yourself, you can change the context by which you see problems throughout the day. Now, I'm going to say this right now is that this works, but it is not an overnight solution. You see, you've been programmed your whole life. So undoing that program takes a little bit of time. And there's 2 things that that people miss when they're doing this. One, they don't have somebody helping them through this. Right. So a good mentor or coach is going to prescribe this And then they're going to help you measure the results and dial in a morning routine that is good for you. There are hundreds of books out there. There's books on mindset, and there's a lot of techniques that will work to serve you specifically if you're working with somebody that is helping you measure the change in your mindset. I'm not a huge fan of prescribing this framework for every single person. It works for most people. But there are other things to start adding into this framework that can have a significant impact on your mindset. And then the other thing that holds people back is that they don't do it, right? They do it for a day or maybe a week at best, and then they fall off the rails. And then they wonder why they never get the results. And this is about making a decision to be better. And taking 10 minutes out of a morning is a decision that you get to make. So, a lot of this is when we're looking at improving our mindset, especially if you're in business, is how are you attacking the day's problems? Are you blaming, or are you taking ownership? Or are you throwing your arms up saying, man, it's just the circumstance I'm in? Again, by having a level of self-reflection, you can understand where you are very easily, and then you can decide whether or not you're going to change that. Fundamentally, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, yep, it's on me. I get to decide today. I get to be in command today. The morning routine is huge when we go through this. And identifying the language you're using throughout the day is pivotal. If you're using words like, well, I'm going to try it. Well, try is a classic victim mentality. Okay, because when you say you're going to try to do something, then it gives you the automatic out. Well, I tried, but it didn't work, right? And when you start to use the word but and try, you know immediately that you're in a victim mentality. Now, if you say, I'm going to do something, and you fail to do it, now you can take a different perspective and say, well, that did not work. And now what am I going to do to achieve that goal? Conversely, you can say, I decide not to do it. That's fine, but you're making a conscious decision. And those conscious decisions are pivotal in changing your mindset because you are the creators of your own destiny. Fundamentally, we get to make the choice on how we think, or we can choose not to take control of your thoughts. It's up to you. It starts with the programming. What do you listen to on the drive in to work every day? I'll give you a quick story. Last year, I really got wrapped up in the North Korean debacle that was going on, and the fact that we were going to war. I have friends in South Korea, and I was worried about them. So I was listening to the news in the morning, coming in every day, and I couldn't figure out why I was so ornery when I got to work. And so I sat down. I was doing some journaling, and it occurred to me that I was in a worse mood, less productive throughout the day because I was listening to the news on the way in. So I went back to my routine on the drive in. That's my time. I've decided to recharge, to listen to things that excite me. It could be good music. It could be an audible book. It could be, some CDs or DVD or CDs on what I do, things that energize me for the day. So think about that. Think about how you're programming yourself. And in today's society, we're programmed. Every advertisement's programming. Every news story's a programming to get you to elicit an emotional response, and that's a dangerous thing. If you're blindly going through life and not taking control of the programming that goes into your head. So when we take control of our thoughts, focus on having a morning routine, focusing on gratitude, prosperity will come from that because your perceptions and how you see problems, and most importantly, how you see solutions present themselves will start coming through. So I just want to thank you. I thought I would share this. Just to recap real quick, start the morning routine. bask in gratitude. And one of the things that I add, depending on the person, is some meditation or some prayer while you're doing that. Helps you focus. Then doing I love yous in the morning for 3 to 5 minutes. Those two things immediately will change the way your brain is processing its inputs. The next thing then is to write down your negative thoughts in that journal, in your gratitude journal, and then the next day, start again. There are far more things that can be added to that. There's evening routines. There are ways to keep you on track when you have a breakdown. But all of those things stem from that morning routine. So I thought I would share that with everybody. I hope everyone's having a great day. It's a beautiful day here in York, Pennsylvania. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much for listening to the show with your host, Tim Fives. We hope you will pass along our web address, fivesquared.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archives section on our website for previous podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at 5squared or follow us on Facebook. This has been a 5 Squared production. Join us next time for another edition of the 5 Squared Podcast.